man. It's a quick roundtable of how you came to Christ. David has a video.
Yeah, I made a video about it. I made a video so I don't have to keep explaining.
yeah. David's is the craziest story you'll hear probably. So type David with testimony. His is the craziest story over here. Mine, long story short, I guess I'll try to keep it as short as possible. So yeah, I wasn't raised in a church going home or anything like that. Went to college, took a philosophy of religion class, found persuasive. I was first introduced to church when I was 15, but ended up kind of rejecting that later. But that was through my aunt. No way too. But anyways, then went to college, took the philosophy of religion class, started believing in deism. Was particularly impressed with the Kalam cosmological argument. Then after that, I started visiting different churches, see if God was revealed in any of these different religions. Came across evidence for the resurrection in preparation for visiting some Christian churches. Was convinced, started debating it for kind of years and stuff, discussing it with other people, became more convinced. And so it was like a long journey. Then ended up just being convinced. That's mine in a really condensed nutshell. Jim?
Billy Graham Crusade,
Oh, wow.
1964.
Oh, that's cool.
I was 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
I had no idea what I was doing, but the music sounded great. Just as I am, you know that music?
Yeah.
And I saw everybody going for it. I went for it. Now, obviously, it was not really a conversion, but I looked to that day as a day that I made a decision publicly. Now, what happened later on, it was really with Francis Schaeffer in L'Abri Fellowship in Switzerland. I was there.
You were there.
Yep.
Wow, I read about that when I read about
1971.
Francis Schaeffer. Interesting.
I was just finished high school. I was 17 years old. I traveled across through Afghanistan, Iran. You could do that back then.
Wow.
And then I made my way through Europe, and I was hitchhiking, and I ended up at L'Abri Fellowship, Waymo. And we were sitting there. What they would do at L'Abri Fellowship, you would have a study 4 hours a day, and then you'd work 4 hours a day. But you'd come in the evening to the Farrell Center, where Francis Schaeffer would sit there in his knickerbockers in front of the fireplace. He said, "Okay, let's have questions." But he wouldn't answer one question at a time. He'd take 5 questions.
Wait, just to be clear, you were there when Francis Schaeffer was there?
Yeah, 1971.
Whoa!
No, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
And so he'd take 5 questions, and then he'd answer all 5 of them with one answer.
Oh, wow.
That was his ability to do that.
Wow.
And I remember I was watching this, just inspired, and a girl comes in. She'd just been raped in Italy, and so she was absolutely furious. And he said, "Okay, why are you furious?" "Well, I've been raped." She says, "Okay, well, where does that come from? That's wrong." He says, "What do you mean? Everybody knows it's wrong." She says, "No, tell me, where did you get that it was wrong?" "If you're traveling by yourself on a train and there's a guy who comes in, might is right. So why shouldn't he have had the right to rape you?" And he just kept backing up. And I just watched this, and I was with her. And I said, "Francis, where are you going with this?"
Right.
But what he did, he was just backing up her with her presuppositional position. And he says, "You have no right to even, you're making a moral choice here, but where does that moral choice come from?" Mm-hmm. And when I realized that there had to be certain absolute moral choices that we cannot decide what they are, dependent on the 51%.
Right.
At that point, I realized I had never thought this through. There has to be a God who dictates that from the very beginning, that this is wrong and that is right. Otherwise, we're always going to be at the behest of the 51%. And that's where I gave my life to Christ. So it was Francis Schaeffer, 1971.
Wow.
And I mean, that's awesome.
That was
I wasn't aware of that, but my goodness, Francis Schaeffer.
Yeah,
you talk about a modern day prophet.
Yeah.
How much of exactly what he predicted would be happening 40 or 50 years?
Yeah. Right now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, my goodness, go back and read How Then Should We Live or something like that, and look at what's going on.
Yeah.
He told everyone exactly what would happen. You can look around right now, and it is exactly what's happening right now.
You're making me feel old now. I've suddenly realized, gosh, you guys were being born when I had this experience.
David has been around for a good 30
I'm
years
76. I'm 76. Born in 76.
Are you 70? I was thinking you're 74.
I'm 76. Yes,
Okay,
I'm saying
guys,
I'm
let's move
76.
to the next subject. I'm really feeling old now.
yeah. All right. So
next question. Why is Jay so old?
Who's the most unlikely person you've seen come to Christ in your life personally? Oh, that's a good question. And what is the story behind it? So I can tell you there was 2 people. One was a guy I used to debate with when I worked at Chili's back in the day. I mean, I was around 20, and we used to debate back and forth. He used to be really into philosophy and like existential philosophers and stuff like that. And we used to, he's actually the one that introduced me to Kierkegaard. But we would just go back and forth. And I was just then getting into like Norm Geisler and Josh McDowell. I was like reading a lot of their stuff at that time. And we'd go back and forth for a while. And I was just like, this guy's just not going to move. He was an atheist and he just wasn't going to move. Then about a year passed and I saw him at church with a cross around his neck. And I was like, what are you doing here? And we just started laughing. And he's just like, yeah, man, you know, we were talking a lot about all this stuff. And my dad was sick. And I started thinking more about like our conversations and other stuff. And he's like, and I just realized that Jesus is the way. And so that was really cool. And then there's another quick story, just a girl who used to kind of mock me and make fun of me about faith and stuff that I worked with at another company. And she would be like, oh, you believe in a magic man in the sky. She used to say all that kind of stuff. Then I saw
Sky
her.
Daddy.
Yes. Yeah. Then I saw her about 10 years later on Facebook and Instagram. And like her name is just like, I don't want to probably give her name, but it's just like a biblical kind of name on there too. And then she was just like sold out for Jesus too. And those were two people that I just didn't think would come that came. And so anyway, so that was beautiful to see how God worked through them. You know, you plant little seeds and then you don't know who's watering it, and then God brings it to fruition. So beautiful. So
probably the one that's the oddest, not the most that surprised me is Adam Seeger. You know Adam Seeger?
Yeah, I know.
He's all over the internet right now.
On YouTube, yeah.
Well, it turns out that he was watching a debate I did with Shabir Ali back in 2018. The one I did in 2014, he was watching it in 2018, was told to do so. This guy has memorized the Quran in Arabic, but he speaks fluent Punjabi, Hindi, Urdu, and English. And so he had been given the obligation to watch this debate to come up with some type of rebuttals. Within 2 hours, he said, I left Islam just watching that debate. So he wanted to meet me and we wanted to get together, and I wanted to hear his stories. So we met here not too far away from where I live. In fact, just south of where I live. I won't tell you where that is, but it's on the East Coast. And we met at a Cracker Barrel. And this guy, I wanted to show him some of these manuscripts that had brought him to Christ. So he went to the back of the car, and he started crying when he saw these manuscripts.
Oh, wow.
Because he had not realized that you can actually look at them. And so I opened up one. He started just reading the text. Now, you know, these don't have dots. These don't have any vowels. Right. So it almost not impossible to read, but they're very difficult to read. And he was just sitting there reading like he was just reading a book.
Oh, wow.
And I said, Adam, how can you do that? How is it you can read? Not even the scholars can do what you're just doing. He says, yeah, I have it all in my head right here. I have it all in my head. And then he says, as he was going down, he suddenly came across a manuscript variant. Then he came across another one, a whole phrase that shouldn't be there. And another one that was there and it shouldn't be there. Within 10 minutes, he found 5 manuscript variants on one page. And I said, of all the people the Lord has brought to Christ, this is the guy we need the most. Because he's right. He's only about an hour and a half from where I live. Yeah. We're going to go back. In fact, now I've been away for a month in Africa. I just got back on Tuesday. I'm heading back to then unpack all this stuff with him. So you're going to hear a lot more about this Adam Seeger. Well, the surprising thing is you have a Hafiz that, you know, should be the hardest to bring through. And yet, once you show him the manuscripts and you realize everything he's memorized,
that's interesting,
is full of errors and they're not even complete. So that's probably the most surprising one that I've come across. But what a...
Did you say manuscripts? I mean, Quranic manuscripts?
Yeah, that's what he's been talking about.
Well, I mean, I just want to make sure we're clear for...
Now, we were looking at the Petropolitanus and we're looking at the Topkapi on the day.
Okay.
And it's these 6 manuscripts that I introduced with that debate with Shabir Ali. But I mean, I think the Lord just gives you those kind of gifts. Yeah. And then he plants them about an hour and a half from where you live, knowing that you're going to work together.
That's crazy. That's really cool. Crazy. Okay, Wood, do you have a story real quick for you on the next one?
I mean, I wouldn't think of any particular. There have been a bunch along the way that like we're just very, very anti-Christian. It didn't mean they're like the worst people. Like early on when I was a Christian, I ended up with a bunkmate who's just total pagan. He was the tattoo artist in the prison, so every night he's right beside my bunk tattooing people and stuff like that. But he's covered in tattoos, all this racist stuff, white pride and stuff like this. He had SS after the the Schutzstaffel, who were gassing the Jews and so on, tattooed on. He had all this racist stuff, and he would sit there, and I'd be reading, and he would say, hey, you should take some, I've got some acid you can take. It will really open up whatever you're reading. And I'm like, yeah, no, thanks, man. He's like, no, really, even if you're reading the Bible, it will like open your mind to do all this stuff. And I go, no, I don't want any. You go, well, I'm just going to put some in your cup of water when you're not looking, and you're going to thank me later. And I was like, look, man, I'm a Christian, but I'm a new Christian. If I ever drink my water and start feeling weird, I'm swinging. I'm just swinging right now. And so that's how our early discussions are going. And then, a few months go by, and he becomes a Christian, and it was like an instant change. He goes up and he gets all his racist tattoos covered up and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just cool. That's like awesome. You're seeing people with like, stuff about killing Jews and stuff, and then saying, I want this stuff covered up and stuff. So there's him, but I mean, even, think of like Nabil. So he's a completely different sort of person from someone like Nabil. But I mean, anytime a Muslim is coming to Christ, it's amazing. I mean, these are people who've been taught from the day they're born that the worst possible thing you can do is say Jesus is Lord. Mm-hmm. And they're told their entire lives that becoming a Christian is a one-way ticket to hell. They understand that they have to give up their families. Their families might turn their backs on them and ostracize them. And then on top of that, if anyone is ever in a position, the penalty is death. So we preach the good news. And what a Muslim is hearing when we preach the good news is, I need to believe this thing that's, I have to give up my family and might get my head chopped off, and then I go to hell for all eternity. You Christians are calling this good news. So it's for me, because I've seen atheists and agnostics and so on come to Christ, and it's it can be a lot to go through that. But when it's a Muslim, it's like you are so conditioned your entire life to reject Jesus, that when a Muslim comes to Christ, it's awesome, because that's someone who has said, I've been told all my life this will get me sent to hell, and I may have to give up my family, and it may get my head chopped off, but you know what? I want to know Jesus anyway. That's always awesome.
Every case is that every Muslim that has come to Christ, there have been repercussions. Mm. They don't all get killed, but they certainly do have to go through persecution, more so than any other group. And you just praise the Lord that they do come through it.
Yeah, because that's
they
real.
do come through it. But what a dire situation. None of us have already had to experience that. What they have to go through.
Yeah.
I could have told my family, hey, I became a Martian Buddhist, and if it makes you a good boy, that's okay.
Yeah, because even in the Bill's book too, talking about like with his dad and stuff, how hard that was, and being ostracized.
Nabil said when he told his dad
that
he was a Christian, he said that is the first time he saw his dad cry in his entire life. Yeah. And his dad turned to him and said, I feel like my spine has been ripped out of me.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and by the way, that's all part of it. Like you understand what you're putting your family through, and you're saying, I want to know Jesus anyway. And that's just, that's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. This